There are tons of different ways to knock Pokemon out in one turn. Usually that's done by hitting them with a strong enough attack, or occasionally by using a dedicated one-hit KO move, like Horn Drill or Sheer Cold. But what's up fellas, I'm Matt, and today we've got some unusual ways to KO Pokemon. Alright, let's get started.
What's up, I'm Elias, and for today's scenarios, we can do almost anything we want to the victim of these setups, but we can't hit them with attacking moves. Fortunately, we still have quite a few tools at our disposal. We can use status moves, abilities, held items, and the victim can use attacks to meet its own demise as well. As long as they're at full health at the start of a turn, and they faint on the same turn, it's fair game. But let's keep things simple for now. We'll start by taking confusion damage to the limit.
When you get confused, you have a chance to hit yourself instead of attacking, but the game decides how much damage you take by using the regular damage formula. So if we want to maximize confusion damage, we want a Pokemon with high attack and low HP and defense. The easiest candidate for this first setup, besides Shedinja of course, is Deoxys-Attack form. It's got 180 base attack, which is tied for 4th highest in the game, but its base defense stat is just 20, making it one of the frailest fully evolved Pokemon. That's especially the case because its base HP is just 50.
What's up?
Sorry, I don't speak that language.
Believe it or not, we don't even need any form of boosting for this setup. We just need to maximize Deoxys' attack stat and minimize its defense stat. We can do that by giving it perfect EVs and IVs in attack and none in defense. If a level 100 Deoxys has those properties, it'll have 459 attack and just 45 defense. A lonely nature would raise attack and lower defense even further, but we don't even need it.
When you take confusion damage, you hit yourself with a 40 base power physical move. With such a lopsided stat spread, Deoxys is actually guaranteed to faint if it hits itself. A simple confuse ray is practically a time bomb against this guy. I hope we don't get demonetized for saying the word bomb. A simple confuse ray is practically a time exploding thing again. Many other Pokemon can OHKO themselves with confusion too, with the help of various stat altering moves like Swords Dance, Swagger, and Screech. Or if you want to do something fancier, you could use Feather Dance, Cotton Guard, Topsy Turvy, and Sweet Kiss.
This Deoxys scenario is unlikely to play out in a real battle. Mythicals are almost always banned from VGC, and Deoxys-Attack mostly runs special moves in singles. That means its physical attack usually won't be maxed out. In most cases, confusion damage will only be enough for a 2-shot. Either way, most of the scenarios in this video are purely hypothetical. This is just a ridiculous exercise where we push the game's mechanics as far as we possibly can.
This next example requires a few turns of setup, but as soon as our victim switches in, they'll faint in one turn. Entry hazards are a common form of chip damage, and if you use them alongside attacks, you can score KOs faster. But it's possible to knock out a Pokemon with only entry hazards, and again, we don't just mean Shedinja. That's thanks to Gigantamax Copperage's signature move, G-Max Steel Surge. That move sets up Sharp Steel, a unique entry hazard that acts like a Steel-type version of Stealth Rock.
By default, when a Pokemon steps on Sharp Steel, they lose 1/8 of their max HP. But if they're weak to Steel, they lose 1/4, and if they're 4 times weak, they lose 1/2. That's also how Stealth Rock works. So we just need a Pokemon that's 4 times weak to Rock and Steel, and they'll faint from hazard damage alone. Unfortunately, they don't exist.
The best we can do is a 4 times weakness to one type and a 2 times weakness to the other. If a Pokemon has those properties, they take 75% of their health from the 2 hazards. Then we can finish off the last 25% with 3 layers of spikes. There are 5 Pokemon that will faint against this setup: Alola Ninetales, Snom, Frostmoth, Amora, and Aurorus. It is rough out here in the suburbs for ice types.
We've got one quick asterisk though.
Nice
one.
If
you do the setup we've described so far.
You want to try that again?
We've got one quick asterisk though. If you do the setup we've described so far, those Pokemon will survive with a tiny sliver of health, unless their HP is divisible by 4. That's because whenever entry hazard damage isn't a whole number, the game will round it down. If a Frostmoth has 101 HP, it'll take 50 damage from rocks, 25 damage from steel, and 25 damage from spikes, leaving it with 1 HP. Fortunately, we can ensure it dies by adding a layer of toxic spikes. If the target is still alive after all of the other hazards, the poison will finish them off instead. Still calling last year 2023.
It's 2025, man. Get with the program.
It's actually 2026 when this video goes out, so...
I'm not that lackadaisical with my editing, and you know that. This setup doesn't work on ice flying types like Delibird and Articuno, even though they're 4 times weak to rock and 2 times weak to steel. That's because flying types are ungrounded, so they're immune to spikes and toxic spikes entirely. Unless we add some more shenanigans. There are a few ways to ground flying types immediately.
If an ice flying type is holding an Iron Ball for some reason, they'll enter the battle on the ground. That forces them to step on the spikes, and they'll lose their last chunk of health. You can also ground them by activating gravity before they switch in. In fact, let's get even more ridiculous. We can use an obscure item to extend this setup to most Pokemon in the game.
Yesterday, I was watching The Price is Right. They have this game called 5 Price Tags. Do you think a dry erase clipboard and a marker cost $39? True or false?
True.
Where on earth are you shopping?
I don't know. What's the answer?
False, it was $20. If you've seen King the Lux videos, chances are you're familiar with how the eject pack works. It switches the holder out as soon as one of their stats is lowered. Fortunately, we have an entry hazard for that as well. Sticky Web lowers your speed by 1 stage, so the eject pack will switch you out before you can even pick a move.
If you have 2 eject pack holders on your team, you can make one of them take entry hazard damage twice in a single turn. Let's see it in action, shall we? Say hello to Gregory and Jeffrey, 2 twin Exploud that were born tomorrow. On the opposite team, we have Copperajah, Slurpuff, and Mew, who set up every entry hazard in the game over the course of 5 turns. Gregory and Jeffrey spend this time doing absolute foolishness, like setting up the sun and howling at each other for no reason. Gregory switches out to George, yet another Exploud who's holding an eject pack. He was born last week.
Sticky Web lowers his speed, but before the eject pack activates, he also gets impaled by every entry hazard in the universe. He loses 25% of his health from the spikes, 12.5% from the rocks, and another 12.5% from the steel. That's half of his HP in total, and he also gets poisoned by the toxic spikes. Gregory switches back in and meets the exact same fate. He's also holding an eject pack, which brings George back into the battle. He steps on all the hazards a second time, and the poison finishes him off. Hello, Elias. Rate my Exploud names.
They're fine. I would have just called them X, Y, and Z.
I thought you were just gonna start vomiting profusely at my Exploud having human names, to be honest with you.
By adding gravity to this setup and finagling with each Pokemon's HP, most of them will faint if they step on every hazard of the game twice. There are some exceptions though. Tentacruel is a poison type, which means it'll remove the toxic spikes from the field entirely. It also resists steel, meaning it only takes 7/16 of its max health per switch in. That's a quarter from the spikes, an eighth from the rocks, and just a 16th from the steel.
That means that even if we have eject packs, Tentacruel will survive the second round of hazards. But the opposing team isn't doing anything at this point, because all the hazards have already been set up. That means we can use Roar or Whirlwind to force Tentacruel to switch out, then use the move again to switch it back in. That'll force it to take hazard damage a third time, knocking it out.
We can use this setup to OHKO almost every Pokemon in the game. Magic Guard users are immune to hazard and poison damage entirely, but every Magic Guard Pokemon has other ability options. If you don't have that ability, you're dead. This setup also wouldn't work on Goldengo, thanks to its steel type and its ability Gold is good.
No, we're good. Good enough. Next sentence.
That results in less hazard damage and an outright immunity to Roar and Whirlwind. But that doesn't matter because this setup is only possible in Gen 8 and this string cheese bozo doesn't exist in those games. King the Luck used a similar setup as part of a bigger goal. He used eject pack loops to make a single turn last as long as possible, which involves a ton of entry hazards. Go check out his video on the topic, link in the description. For some reason though, he had trouble getting multiple eject packs to trigger in the same turn. But there's another video by DeWoblefet where he crafts a super long turn of his own. All the eject packs work perfectly in this video, so who the hell knows what's going on here?
Once again, these are the kinds of things that will never ever happen in a serious battle. Roar and Whirlwind make the target switch to a random teammate, so to make this setup reliable, the victim's team has to have exactly 3 Pokemon on it, and 2 of them need eject packs. I'll just tell you now, that's not happening. A team that relies entirely on hazard damage is a terrible idea, and so is showing up to battle with 3 Pokemon. We're just sharing these ridiculous scenarios for kicks and giggles.
Alright, so now that we've got a setup that works on nearly everything, let's restore balance to the universe. Next up is something that requires a signature ability and a signature move. We've done some nonsense with Oricorio on Oreo-Corio?
Yeah, yes.
We've done some nonsense with Oreo-Corio on the channel before, so let's do some more with its ability Dancer. Whenever another Pokemon uses a dance move, Oricorio will copy it immediately. That includes some great boosting moves as well as some strong attacks. But for today, we're not concerned with any of that stuff.
Lunar Dance is one of Cresselia's signature moves. Upon using this move, Cresselia faints, but the Pokemon that takes its place is fully healed. And for once, we mean fully healed. They regain all their HP and get curative statuses, which is the same thing the Full Restore does. But the recipient also gets their power points restored, which is much harder to come by. Does that make a huge difference in the grand scheme of things? Nope, but it's pretty neat.
I live in the house that Jean-Michel Basquiat was born in. No, I don't. But I will be buried in the same place as him. He's buried in the Greenwood Cemetery, and I'm pretty sure that's where I'll be buried too in a few years.
A few? How many is a few?
Anyway, Lunar Dance activates Dancer, meaning if Oricorio sees Cresselia use it, it'll copy the move and feint as well. So in the microscopic chance you've got a Lunar Dance Cresselia on the field and your opponent has an Oricorio, you can pull off a pretty obscure 1-for-1 sacrifice. Well, you know what they say, an eye for an eye makes the whole world What? Who says that?
Don't worry about it.
An eye for an eye makes the whole world Cyclopses, and in the land of the blind, the one-eye man is king. This interaction actually has happened in a battle, which is how we learned about it.
So you know how people's parents will say, oh, if your friends went and jumped off a bridge, would you follow them? Oricorio said yes.
I would too. Probably fun, which is why they're doing it.
Let's use another Gen 7 Pokemon to copy moves and cause some chaos, shall we? A Rangaroo signature move is Instruct, which makes the target repeat their most recent move. A handful of attacks can deal crash damage, which is equal to half the user's total HP. If you miss Jump Kick, High Jump Kick, Axe Kick, or Supercell Slam, you'll crash and take a metric ton of damage. I would stand at the bottom and catch you, Smile.
Yeah, good luck. We would both die.
The laws of physics are not on my side, but I'll figure it out.
But that's not the only way to cause crash damage. You'll also crash if the opponent is immune to the move. So you can watch your Pokemon use High Jump Kick on a Ghost, then use Instruct to make them crash a second time. That'll knock them out if their HP is an even number. If it's an odd number, you can simply add a second Rangaroo to the setup. By using Instruct twice, the victim will crash 3 times and faint.
Quick, what Pokemon can learn Axe Kick?
Hitmontop.
Ooh, so close. Hitmonlee, Medicham, Hisui.
God damn it.
If you're using one of the fighting type kicks, this setup works with a ghost type target. If you're using Supercell Slam, the target can be either a ground type, Shedinja, or a Pokemon with some other electric immunity, like Motor Drive Electivire or Volt Absorb Lantern. But that's not the only way to cause crash damage. You can achieve the same effect by simply making the target use Protect.
Heck, we can even make this setup work without crashing. If a Pokemon uses Mind Blown or Steel Beam, they lose half of their max HP whether the move hits or not. So we can use Instruct to make users of these moves faint as well. Flora-Blast is a similar move, but the user only takes recoil if the attack is successful.
Missing High Jump Kick and crashing would be a painful way to faint. But you know what's probably more painful? Exploding. I would know. I explode 5 times a day.
It's not good, man.
I never said it was good, Elias. Most Pokemon that know Self-Destruct or Explosion also know at least one other attack. Cause, you know, sometimes you'll want your Pokemon to move without them fainting. But if the only attacks you know will make you explode, there are ways to force you to use them.
Go to your local Explosionologist.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, right. If you think there's any of those hanging around New York, probably.
Yeah, if there was anywhere in the world that there would be Explosionologists, it would be New York. The most straightforward method is by simply using Taunt. In modern games, that disables the target's status moves for 3 or 4 turns. So if one player is on their last Pokemon and they know Explosion and 3 status moves, Taunt will force them to explode and faint on the next turn. But here's another way to turn off status moves. The
Assault Vest boosts the holder's special defense by 50%, but in exchange they can't use status moves. A handful of Pokemon can give the victim an Assault Vest. Lopunny can learn the move Switcheroo, and Golurk and Swoobat can learn Trick. These moves make the user and target swap held items. Normally, they'd be unusable if you're holding an Assault Vest, on account of them being status moves.
But these Pokemon all share the ability Klutz, which prevents held items from working. That means the Assault Vest isn't boosting their special defense, but more importantly for today, it's also not disabling your status moves. That means they're free to give the exploding target an Assault Vest and watch them go boom on the next turn.
You know something? I remember when I was in, like, middle school, people were like, oh, Matt's voice is so deep. Whatever happened to that? I have, like, a pretty high-pitched voice now. Didn't go any lower.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Everybody knows that I have a very high voice as well.
Hey guys, welcome back to MEPlaysGames. My name is Matt,
and today we've got a mystery host.
Right, so I promised that I would mention the answer to last week's Only Connect question, the one with the months of the year. It's October, and the reason for that is because Only Connect is a British show. It's the order of the months by length in the UK. Daylight saving time starts in October in the UK. April, June, September, November have 30 days. March is 31 days, minus 1 hour, because that's when Daylight saving time starts. Then October is the longest month because it's got 31 days, and that's when Daylight saving time ends. I went to look up Rodman. This is the first picture that came up on Google. What on earth is happening here?
Dennis Rodman is just fabulous, dude. Come on.
It's his God-given right to be fabulous, but I'm allowed to have questions.
He's also broke as shit.
Welp, that's all we got for today. Leave a comment about Jolteon. Consider becoming a channel member to help us keep making these videos. It costs as little as 99 cents a month, and you'll get access to bonus content like deleted scenes. Shoutouts to our newest member, Wolfie the Rabbit Queen, as well as all of our existing ones. We'll see you all next time. Good night, fellas. Sleep well.